Hello everyone, Awakening Animations here and welcome to part 3 of making a stylized wooden wall in Blender 2.8. Okay, so let's get cracking. In this part we're going to set up the UVs, fix some of these pieces here, and yeah, just kind of prepare everything for Substance Painter so we can go and apply some textures to our UVs. And then since we've got this unwrapped, we can go ahead and create a wall and keep our modifiers that we've used here to still create variations to each textured copy. Sorry about that, tongue twister. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to do here is kind of just move these planks up a bit so that they don't intersect with the floor and we see a bit of the wooden post before it starts. Okay, so yeah, the next thing I want to do before unwrapping our UVs here is I want to make these instances real geometry. So I'm not sure yet if we want each bolt to be different in the sense of the textures, or if we're going to unwrap one and make them all share the same geometry or the same UV space, kind of like instancing it afterwards. Okay, so to make these instances, because if you remember, these are just like vertices here, all these verts that we instance this geometry onto. If we look here, we can see it's just the vert we created, and here's our original bolts overlaying here. It's kind of parented. So what we can do is unwrap this guy and work from there. But anyway, let's just make all of these geometry. So the way we'll do that is use Control A. I'm going to enable screencast keys here quickly. Let's get it on. Okay, so there we go, screencast keys enabled, and let's use Control A and say make instances real. And now we've got a bunch of geometry here. Our verts is no longer needed, and we don't even need this guy anymore either, so we can just go ahead and delete that. So before I move any further, I want to make a copy of this. Shift D, drop it in the same place, and let's make it its own collection. And we'll just, okay, that didn't work. I moved it into collection. That's fine. The other ones aren't in the collection, so let's just work with that. Name this var. So we'll just remember that this is the one with the modifiers on it, and actually the modifiers we're going to remove from the original ones here. So let's just name one of these bolts, and we'll know that's going to be our main bolt, and we'll name these guys the right way too. So plank 1, plank, if I can spell, plank 3, and here we've got plank 2, and then we've got our 2 posts, so we can just say post post 1 and post 2. Okay, so that's fine. So the things we want to apply here is going to be our bevel, so let's apply our bevel. We don't need to worry about that. There we go. And on these main shapes, we're going to apply these modifiers because we're happy with this shape. Let's say we're happy. Okay, we're happy with this guy too, so I'm just going to hit apply all there. And the same with these ones. We're going to hit apply all. Okay, and apply all. Okay, cool. So now we got all our geometry here. Everything's applied. Now what's happening over there? We've got some intersecting stuff happening here. Let's have a look at that. Okay, we've got doubles. That's because I haven't hidden our original here, and that might have been a big mistake. So let's undo all that crazy stuff I just did, like an idiot. Okay, so that should be back to normal. I want to hide this original one. Sorry, this original one. Let's activate our selection tools here. Make sure we can't select that either. So now we've got this one where we want to apply everything. So let's just go through and do that again. So apply it all. These guys, they can all be joined as one for now, and we'll get back to that. They've got no modifiers, that's cool. So let's just leave it. Okay, so now we've got everything applied here. No weird intersection stuff that we don't understand. Except over here. What's happening here? Haven't applied this one. Okay, cool. So now we can get to unwrapping these things, and it's going to be really basic unwrapping. We want to select these edges because this is going to be like the wood's being cut off, so this part will have a different texture than this part, for example. Okay, so enough talking. Let's get it on. So things might be weird there, but we can fix that by hand if we really think it's necessary. Let's see how things go. So there we've got that one side. So if you guys really enjoy working much faster, we could have used a mirror on these guys. It would have worked. And then just apply the mirror and then unwrap this stuff, So here I'm just selecting all these parts that need to be cut as seams, and that's great for that section, and mark the seam. So what we can do here now is grab these edges on the back and mark them as well, mark seam, and that's going to give us a decent unwrap over there. And here on the top we're going to do the same thing. So do we want this section only to be a cutout, or do we want this section to be a cutout? It's our decision to make. I think this part, like a more flatter area, makes more sense, so we'll do that. Mark the seam over there, and we'll just grab like an edge on the inside here and just make sure we don't have that edge there. Cool. So that's it for those pieces, and now we're just going to unwrap one of these bolts here. So why am I not, there we go. So we'll grab that piece like so, and we also need to cut it once down there, and we'll grab this piece and also cut it once down there. So that's our seams for the bolts, and now we can get to the unwrapping. So what we can do here, I shouldn't have done this. Maybe if I separate this by piece, it's going to give us washer and things separate here. So I'm just going to like, why is it not okay, that's why I need to select them all. Okay, they're all separate objects still, so that's perfect. Don't know why they're still doing that. It's like they're instanced or referencing each other. So maybe that's still cool. We'll still export one, and when we bring it back they'll all share the materials. Okay, great, no problem. So the next parts, this is going to be a game asset, so we're going to put all these pieces on one UV island. If you wanted more high res, you could make two different materials, put your planks on one, your posts and one bolt on one, and that's about it. So now we can just hit U unwrap, and we're going to get a decent unwrap here. It says that we need to apply the scale, so I must have scaled some of the stuff. So let's just apply the scale for all of them, make sure we're all good in that sense. Cannot apply multi-user object. Alright, if you say so. So let's just make it a single user, like so. So I just went into the object data and clicked that button, and now it's like a single user here. And now let's just unwrap that again. Cool, so it was our bolt there being a bit funky. And yeah, so this is for our bolt still, I guess, this section here and our washers. So what we can do is pack this, so UV pack islands here, packed it. Let's give it some space. Let's try 4. Nah, we need more than that, so let's just go up and put it on 1 there. That should be okay. Yeah, I'm happy with that, with what we're getting here. So let's say we're happy. So what I'd like to do here once again is duplicate another variation, and the reason for that is, okay, to invert that, normals, shift N to do that. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to kind of create an exploded mesh for when we bake, because at the moment, if we're going to bake now in Substance Painter, we're going to get weird ambient occlusion maps and stuff, because it's going to be like picking up the other model, and maybe we don't want something like that. So yeah, so let's create another duplicate here. I'm gonna say Shift D, like so, and just go to New Collection, Exploded. Okay, so when you've got a bigger mesh, this becomes a bit more complicated, but since we don't have a bigger mesh, it's fine. So I'm gonna take these original ones and also put them in a group or collection, as we call them, and just say original. Yeah, that's cool. So hide the original version, go into the exploded one, and let's do this. So let's just move these guys, and what we can do is use our grid snapping here and just snap it like twice forwards, and that's fine, but just for the sake of seeing everything, let's put that up too as well. Okay, cool. So these should be okay. They shouldn't capture each other, but if we fear, never fear, just do the necessary. Okay, so that's it. We've got our exploded version here. Our names are all weird, but who cares? We're not going to be using a high poly here. I'm just going to shade everything smooth, shade smooth, like so. And just for anyone who wanted a high version, what we'd need to do here is create another version of this. So duplicate it again, M, new collection, and call this high, like so. And let's go out of the exploded version into the high version, and we need to add subdivision surfaces to these. So that might be nice. We get a better smoothness and better shading. Of course, to improve our shading, we could always do things like that on our high version, but I'm okay with that. So let's just copy that modifier over to these guys. So let's select him, copy selected modifiers, subdivision. Okay, so now these two have it as well, and we might as well give it to this guy. Get some nice subdivided stuff there, and let's see what happens if we add it on him. Obviously we're losing integrity there, and that's because we need to add holding loops like so over here. Yeah, that can work as well. So this is just to get a high poly version, and then we'll bake it from this into Substance Painter. So I know I said I wasn't going to do this, but since I'm showing it, I might as well use it. So these are not very consistent, and some hard surface people are going to be swearing me right now, like badly, but anyway, that's pretty much what we would have wanted here. Nice sharp there, and round the rest. And here obviously we don't want what we're seeing there. So let's select all of that and all of that, and if we say vertices relax and just hit Shift R to repeat that a couple of times, and we get a bit more of a smoother transition there. Great. So that's about it. We obviously needed this here to be harder as well, and just another one up in there. Okay, so there we go. We've got our high res set up and ready to bounce. The next thing that's needed here is they all need the same name. So in the exploded one, we can say bolt underscore low, plank 1 low. So we're going to name all of these with the appropriate name underscore low, and the high is going to have the same name underscore high. So I'm just going to do this off screen, and I'm back. Okay, super lightning fast. Okay, so if we look here, same names, the only difference is the underscore low and high, and I'm keeping that lowercase, not uppercase H or capital H, because that's how Substance sees it, and that's about it. So if we wanted to go a step further even, we could apply our modifiers for these guys. So apply, 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 apply even there. So what we could do here now is create our groups. So we could create color groups here for the parts that needed to be cut off and all that crazy stuff, but I'm not gonna do that. If you wanted to, you can. We really don't need to. We'll have different ways of doing that in Substance. Anyway, so let's get started. Now we can export this FBX. This is our high version. So where my Blender tutorial high, let's see, round 2. Okay, so inside here we can call this one plank wall, not plank, plank wall underscore high. Once again, Substance Painter likes that. Export this guy, and now we're done with the high version. Let's go back to our nice low poly version over here, the same naming convention, and we're gonna export this one the exact same name but underscore low. Yep, you guessed it. Okay, so that's it. We got our high and our low version, and we've got our original here that's not exploded, which is great. We're gonna come back and use this guy soon, so we might as well hide the exploded version here, close these groups out. Let's make it so that we can select these guys, and I want to shade them smooth as well, all of it. Yeah, all of it. And here we want to export everything except these instanced versions as well. So file, export, FBX, and we'll just call that plank wall. Boom, done. Okay, great. So that's been 20 minutes. I'm going to stop that here. In the next part we're going to import those into Substance Painter and start our texturing, and then we'll be back in Blender afterwards, set up our textures, and then figure out how we're going to make a quick little wall and still add some variation to each wall using the modifiers from the variation section here. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that. See you guys in the next part.